folks, Eric Wooldridge here of the Additive Guru channel. And what we're going to show you today is how to actually add in some supports, not for actually breaking off, but where you see areas where it's not very optimum to print something without an extra angle or something of that nature. This is kind of like this, easier to explain. So let me show you here. Let's just say for this example, I want to put some kind of structure here. And I don't want it to be support material that might be removed, but it's going to be something that's going to be added to the structure just for reinforcement for my own sake. And it'll also help it print better in terms of its creation. So I could actually go through and just add this support structure at that point in time. Or maybe there's just some specific reason that I need to have an extra strut right there. Now you may be tempted, and if you haven't seen some of these videos, you go back and check out some of our other stuff where we've used Meshmixer to manipulate generative designs. But you may be tempted to think, all right, well, I'm just going to take one of the tools that are here, like the drag and so, and I'm just going to draw a structure up to it and be great. But you'll find out that that's harder than you think it is. Control and going in the right direction sometimes is not hitting where you expect, and as you can see right there. What I found the fastest way to do is to go ahead and just use some of the features that are built into Meshmixer, such as a rectangle, maybe a cone. You can also use a cylinder, maybe even a plane, and get the features into space that you can use first. So what I'm going to do is let's just try out where we're going to place a small cone into the space. Now you'll notice that I'm not pushing it onto the object, I'm putting it out in space because first of all it's really big, and I'm going to have to scale out really large to size it down, maybe stretch it up a lot, move it out here, and I'm going to make it as something that I can manipulate in position. And once it's there, then I can start doing a lot of manipulation, maybe twist it a little bit, maybe stretch it this way. There we go. Bend it up a little bit into the strut that I'm after. And you'll notice that I'm using the boxes at the end of the arrows, not the arrows themselves for this process. And then I'm going to move it into place and get it where I need it to be. There we go. Looks like we're about right there. Maybe a little bit more turn, a little bit this way. And you can see we are getting it kind of dialed in to what we're after. And if you have these structures in place first, it makes it a whole lot easier for you to shift the change and make the strut design that you're wanting before you start trying to manipulate mesh. Maybe a little bit more twist, and maybe thin it back up just a hair, maybe a little more thin this way. Yeah, it's a little bit too thin, sorry. Doesn't have to be perfect, it's fine. So anyway, once it's in place, then we can start worrying about manipulation, but you can't actually start manipulating it until it's part of the same body. So what we'll have to do is go to View and turn on our Objects Browser. Once it's on, hold down Control key on your keyboard, select them both and say Combine. And you can turn your Object Browser back off because now it is a creation. Now we can go through our sculpting part and let's see what we can do. Maybe a little bit of a bubble and smooth here, and you see it's affecting our strut and our object at the same time. So I can do this, I can come through, do some drawing, and I can reshape maybe a little bit too much at once there, get a little overzealous. But I can put my strut in place by having that original design there, and I can shape it to support. And of course you can always come back and do smoothing, flattening, whatever the case may be. You can also use your bubble smooth to inflate. As we have talked about in the past, there's a lot of advantage in doing ridges. Show sharp little ridges, or like rounded ridges work really, really well. And I could do that structure, and now it is a better addition to my creation. And tighten that up a little bit. So the bubble smooth is a really good approach. And now I have a support material component that is built into it. So again, don't try to manipulate the mesh itself. Go ahead and get you an object like a column or something cylindrical that you can easily stretch and pull and kind of thin out, and then you can add it in. If you want to, you can always create just your own objects to do that with. And I'll show it again just as a quick demonstration. So let's say that I need to put something right here as well. So I would go back into Meshmix, grab a cylinder, drag it out into space. It's way too big, so I zoom back and I scale it down, hitting the little white block, move it around until I get it kind of close, scale it down a little bit more, make it taller, all kinds of those little things. Thin it out that way, thin it out that way, using my blocks at the end of my transforming tool, thinning it and thinning it. Because thin structures are typically what are stiffer, or can be stiffer. Maybe it's a little bit too tall now. And then start using your arrows to move it into position. As you can see there and there. A lot of times I have to drag it around a whole lot to figure out where it is even in space. Until I start seeing it pass through the object, and then I can kind of get in closer. And you see it's too tall at the moment because it's penetrating that wall. Slide it in there, slide it up a little bit, maybe a little rotation. A little less this direction, maybe a little bit thicker this way, a little more toward the middle, because you can always thicken it up as well in the mesh afterwards. Maybe thin it just this way, just a hair, and get it into maybe a little bit more of an angle. And there we have our strut. Support strip. And once it's where you like it, it's the size that you like it, it's in both objects, then you come through and you say accept, and just remember you have to combine the object with the other one for this to work. So you turn on your object browser, you select them both with your control key, and you say combine. Once it's use it, and the color doesn't matter, the fact that it's a different color. Then you can go through with your sculpting tools and actually do some dragging, some inflating, and kind of make it into be a realistic, more organic design that goes better with the mesh. You can even thin it out if you see fit. So I can come through, fix this a little bit, give it a little bit of stiffness right at the joint with some bubble fill. A bit more right there, binding them together just a little bit better, avoiding a sharp corner right there, and we have our organic design. If I want to get a little crazy, I can turn around and start flattening it out in the middle. Don't want to get too flat because it's got a, it's still got a print. But I have a little bit of a strut. That's probably a little too thin. But anyway, you get the idea. Created a strut into the design to help support it and give me just a little bit of more oomph to my design process. All right, so it's easy to do. Just go find you some files or two, make you some cylinders, turn them into a mesh, and you can learn how to add in extra features to support your project as you go along. All right, thanks for watching. Check out some of our other videos, and if you like what we're doing, so hit subscribe, and let us know if you've got some other techniques or those kind of things you'd like to see. We'll see you.